the white paper anniversary of Bitcoin.
This is extremely significant, guys. This is if you think about where the world was when this white paper was printed, you could almost say it was, the timing was beautiful. Everything involved with it was perfect. So we already had the financial meltdown. And remember, and no one talks or really talks about it anymore. It's like the too big to fail. So all of the big boys, all the homies were getting saved, but then the small businesses and countries, entire countries were going into bankruptcy. It just meltdown, the general meltdown during that time period. And that's when Satoshi Nakamoto, we don't know if it's a single individual or a group or a team, but this white paper was written and published today, 14 years ago. And literally the principle of it was peer-to-peer cash transfers, meaning we don't need a bank. Why? Because clearly from what was happening in the global economy, they were saving their homies, the other banks, but screw the unbanked, screw everyone else in terms of how do we save everybody in this. So this document, which is at bitcoin.org, and it's multiple languages, tons of languages. And if your language isn't there, please get in there, contribute, and let everyone in your language understand what the purpose of this was and why it's changed so much. I mean, it's made billionaires thus far in just 14 years, multiple. So this is the time to pay attention, because this is the next industrial revolution, not industrial, but the next revolution that's already happening. And most people, boomers, and others, do not realize this. Jamie Dimon, no matter what he says, guys, he is that garage sale guy that's trying to get it in cheap with his homies.
Garage sale diamond. and just for everyone who might be younger or might be missing the context, in 2008, there were basically some really big companies that were going bankrupt because they were just stretched too far, and the government stepped in and said, no, they're too big to fail, and basically spotted them the money even though they should have failed. And so there's no accountability is the problem. And so functionally what this did is it inflated the US dollar. It made all of the lay people pay for the sins of these bigger companies that were just stretching themselves too thin, just so that we didn't have enormous financial collapse. And in 2008, that's what we went through. Gas prices were the highest we've seen them until recently. And so what most people believe is that whole event didn't actually get resolved. It got punted into the future, and it looks like we might now be having to eat that breakfast all soggy. And so the question is, like, did it compound? Did it compound its outcome? What is this whole event going to look like, and how are we going to talk about this once it's over? I mean, I'm sure the rest of the DCTV team could probably speak to that in deeper lengths.
Absolutely. And this is the realization we have to come to. The banks are not here to take care of you necessarily. The banks are here to make a profit off of you. And the fact that the governments actually support that by bailing them out and let everyone else try to resolve it. And guess what? When they're printing money, they're actually who's paying for this? It's all of us.
Right.
It's every single citizen in this country. And then the other countries that are too scared with their own fiat start throwing their fiat, converting it to the US dollar. So it strengthens the dollar, but it's more of a Ponzi scheme where it's all coming together, where it's going to topple over at some point.
Yeah. It's an invisible tax.
It really is. And now is the time we're beginning to pay for it. So this Bitcoin white paper was an answer to that. It's like, hey, I know this. I busted my ass to get this. I made this. I can't if I put the value of this, I sell it and put it into the bank, there's no guarantee you're going to get what you earn back. They'll start questioning you. What is this for? Why are you taking out so much? Where, oh, you don't want to say? Let me write it down for the government to figure out what you're going to do. It's
no private keys.
Yes.
Well,
not your cheese.
Nobody bats an eye when you put that much into the bank.
Yeah, that's true.
They start questioning, actually.
when you're putting it into the bank now?
Yeah.
Well, they ask you where it
Yeah,
came
where'd
from.
this
They
come
do
from?
on a Series C. Yeah. Make sure
Yeah.
you're not money
Yes.
laundering.
I do tell them
Right.
drug dealer.
Correct. So there is no, this is not yours. That money in the bank is no longer yours. Bitcoin is the answer to that. So now if I converted this, I sold it for Bitcoin. Now I own it. It's extremely volatile at the moment and not as much as it used to be, but that value is mine. No one can take it from me unless I tell them my seed phrase, and I can transfer it to Tamp in a deal I want to make and transfer it directly to her. There is no middle person asking you why, where did this come from, how did this come up? No. And it's not laundering because it's all on the blockchain. It's all auditable, but there is no fat middleman earning their share out of Tamp's and my work. That's the revolution of Bitcoin. And that's what we have to understand about Bitcoin. And think of it rat poison like Warren Buffett does. But remember, he didn't want to get into technology stocks or anything technology because he didn't understand it. And I admire that because it's someone who knows his limitations and invests based on what he understands. So in this case, a lot of people, once they start seeing Bitcoin, they're Warren Buffett says it's a scam, but why are all these guys jumping in? I mean, so heavily and even risking so much. And once you understand what this was, the purpose of it, which is a protocol for transfer of money, then you realize, oh, this, what I put in here, they cannot take it from me unless I give them the keys.
Right.
Or better yet, Warren Buffett does understand it. He's just so heavily invested into banks. He understands that Bitcoin is a direct threat to that.
And even Warren Buffett was pressured.
Because that's the thing. If you truly just don't understand it, so you're staying an arm length away, why not just say that? If you really don't understand it, you don't have to call it rat poison because you don't understand it well enough to know it is something that can kill you. You can just say, I don't deal with that. It's not my thing yet. Until I understand it, I don't mess with it.
FUD.
But if you call it rat poison or you Jamie Dimon it and call it a Ponzi that you'll never touch, and then all of a sudden you're eating it up, maybe you very much do understand Bitcoin and how much it can upend all the swamp of the banks. And so you have to say something to keep people from absolutely going that direction.